Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. I'm really excited for these episodes. We're on Ace of the Diamond, episodes 10, 11, and 12 of Act 2, and I poured myself some tea because I am ready for the tea to spill, because last episode, Sawamura and crew, getting to know our first years, getting to know their personalities, what their ambitions are, and the struggles that they're facing. Because while Kaoru and Masashi have made their way into the top 20 as first years, old Koshu and Asada are struggling, and they're kind of at the bottom of the barrel along with our injured player. And so, or what I think is the injured player. I'm recording this a little bit early because I've got to go out of town next weekend. So as of right now, episodes 7 through 9 is about to air on Patreon, and then episodes 4 through 6 are about to air on YouTube. So I'm recording this a little bit ahead, but I couldn't wait because this dynamic between Koshu and Sawamura, I'm here for it. I just cannot wait for Sawamura. Sawamura needs a good challenge, right? He's got Furuya, his rival, and he's trying to struggle to become the ace. And what better ace building strategies than to reach your Kohei and get them to just understand the power of Nakama. So if Sawamura's got to build up his ace status, and while he's doing that pitching against Furuya and doing that sort of rivalry, he can do that internally with his emotional strength, trying to reach out to Koshu and Asada. And I feel like Sawamura and Asada, based on the last episode, they seem like they'll become good friends. Koshu, on the other hand, I am a little curious about, but you know what? He's roommates with Miyuki. I'm really curious to know if he's going to try to trash talk Sawamura in front of Miyuki and what Miyuki would say to that, if he's realized he was serious or not, and then how this is going to go. So we made it out of the quarterfinals, right? And so now we're up against, I think we're up against Tato, whatever team we're up against. Basically in the last episode, Inashiro mopped the floor with Yakushi, much to, not really to my surprise, but much to my sadness, because I love Masanada and my Raichi. But May setting the gauntlet down, being like, if y'all want this title, come get it. Like, woo! So I'm really excited. I've also want to note that I've been told through YouTube comments that the voice actor for Hongo is Ono, who is Ono Daisuke. Cannot say his name right, Daisuke, who is also the voice actor of Erwin Smith from Attack on Titan, who is one of my favorite characters in that show. So I was like, oh, it's okay, Hongo. That's why I like your character's voice so much. It all makes sense now. But yeah, I'm pretty excited, y'all. I've been waiting. I was going to wait till I got back from my trip to record these set of episodes, and I was like, no, I can't. I've got to do it now. So yeah, we're going to do 10, 11, and 12. And then next week, I've been told that I need to go ahead and watch 13, 14, 15, and 16 together. So that's going to be a trip to watch those 4 together. Holy cow. But we're just going to watch the 3 this time around and see how it goes. So I'm pretty excited, y'all. I hope y'all are too, but let's not waste any more time. I want to dive right into these episodes and see what happens. So we're going to start Ace of the Diamond, Act 2, Episode 10, and we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, okay. This just got really interesting with old Furuya and Sawamura. Let me say first and foremost, our sunshine boy, Furuya is the ace and is the dominant pitcher, yes. But I will argue that Sawamura has the spirit of the ace 1,000%. Especially after these 3 episodes, I was like, Furuya, honey, you are the better pitcher. I think Furuya could outpitch Sawamura. I'm pretty sure he could. But I think I just saw how Sawamura is going to become the ace in this series. And it's going to be, this is like a turning point, and I'm kind of here for it. I'm like, okay, Furuya, honey, because that was the one thing we talked about back in seasons 1 and 2. We're like, there were several of us in the comments in the Discord. We were like, is it just going to come down to Furuya getting injured, and that's going to lead him to and that's going to lead Sawamura to be better than him? No, I don't think so at all. They talked a lot in this episode. The word team kept coming up repetitively. I wrote it down twice in episodes 10 and episode 12, where it is a central focus. And Sawamura, if it's like Sato, it's all about the team, because that's the thing. Arguably, arguably, a team like Inashiro, Kunitomo said it himself, they're a team of individuals, for better or for worse. And it works for Mei. It works for Mei to be a selfish pitcher because Kunitomo was like, that's just how we roll. That is our dynamic. It's not the best teamwork, but it's just how we do things. And with Hongo's team, with Kamadai, they were good, but Hongo was definitely the best attribute of it. And it was very much, the coach was very much spurning him and kept firing him along because, and Hongo's personality could handle it. Furuya's personality cannot handle it. No, I don't. After this episode, I'm like, oh, honey, you are not Hongo. Furuya is not Hongo, and that's a good thing. But I think Furuya is trying to be him, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work for you. because Kataoka is not Nita. That's the big thing. Nita nurtured that attitude, right? He nurtured Hongo's selfishness. And his, like, because in the game, Hongo, like, ignored his captain. He just acted like this egotistical jerk. And it worked for Hongo. I like Hongo's character a lot because it works. And it can back him up. But Furuya's not Hongo. So, we talk about these episodes. And Koshu taking that first step. Because I think in episode 12, Koshu saw something in Sawamura. And we'll probably get, like, a flashback to it in the next episode. But I think Koshu saw in Sawamura himself with that whole incident with Miyuki. Miyuki, my honey, you got your work cut out for you in this season, right? We're going to talk about Miyuki. But, so let's go. Let's start out. Episode 10, I wrote the least notes about. Koshu. I want to note about Koshu. I didn't really notice this in the other episodes, but his eyes have like a dull quality. They're dull like Chris's were. They're like that dull gray color. We've not seen them like sparkle. We've not seen his eyes like, even back in season 2, we didn't see his eyes like sparkle like Sawamura's. They didn't have like the white in their eyes. They're very dead eyes. Like he's clearly struggling from whatever happened to him in middle school. Whatever he dealt with that Daikyo coach, it has clearly affected him greatly, and he's still struggling with it. And Sato, the best friend, is just trying to string him along and keep him in good spirits. So that's interesting to note. But I like that the first person that Sawamura went to, it wasn't Kuromochi, it wasn't Miyuki. We see why it wasn't Miyuki here in a minute. But it was Kanemaru. Kanemaru's the one he went for advice to. I think that's kind of cool that he's like, Kanemaru won't. Because, I mean, if you think about it, Kuromochi and Miyuki would make fun of him and be like, oh, well, you got what you deserved. And Haruichi would probably ignore him and be like, So Kanemaru is like the person that Sawamura could go to and get genuine advice from. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet that he relies on him. And he's roommates with Sato, who's instantly like, oh my God, what did Koshu do? Like, why wasn't I there to stop him from being like that? Like, So I find that interesting. I think that's really, really cute. So we get Tato versus Ugamori. And how I like that both Tato and Ugamori's teams both have been inspired by losing to Sato. I think that's really cool that we get that both Mukai and Umemiya have been inspired by playing against the batters from Sato. I was like, that's really freaking cool. And then now when Umemiya continue to be the best OTP in Ace of the Diamond. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Inashiro versus Tato though, like, Mukai's the Dollar General version of Mei. He's not Mei. I don't see Tato winning. I see Inashiro, as much as Inashiro dominated the last game, unless Mei just has an off day or he's sick or something, I can't see Inashiro losing to Tato. I could be surprised though. This series has a habit of surprising us. So I don't know, but I just feel like Inashiro's going to go to the finals. They're going to go to the finals. I feel like that's going to happen. So yeah. So we go to Miyuki. Miyuki just throwing it right back in his face. Now, Miyuki did not bring up Sawamura and Chris and him and their encounter. Sawamura thought of that on his own. But he first brings up, he's like laughing at Sawamura. He's like, what, you stick your foot in your mouth? Did you bite off more than you could chew at these first years? And Sawamura's like, understand me, Miyuki. I love when Sawamura gets mad at Miyuki, he calls him by his full name. He's like, Kazuya Miyuki. Like, I just like, it's like a parent getting onto a child, like saying your full name when you get onto him. It's cute. But I love that Miyuki's like, you made fun of Azuma. Remember that? Remember how that was? And Sawamura's like, oh my God, I did. It's so weird to go back to Sawamura in those first few episodes of the series. It's almost, it's so meta when Sawamura's like, I'm so ashamed of my first year self. It's like, oh, Sunshine Boy, you've come so far. And yeah, it's just, I love that Miyuki's like, this is karma. This is payback for how you treated Azuma back at the beginning of your first year. Like, that kid was just as cocky as you were. And then on his own, Sawamura thinks of Miyuki and the Chris incident. And so Sawamura's like, oh, dang it. No, why is this happening? So Tato wins against Ugamori, and Inashiro wins against their team. So they're going to play each other. And Kasuga plays Sato on the 20th of April. And Sawamura got to start because Furuya had that bad game in the quarterfinals. So Sawamura got to start. And this is the first thing. This phrase right here got me to thinking like, okay, this is going to become a central theme of this season. The idea when Kataoka says, forget your jersey number and focus as a team. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, that's going to be our big theme this season is forget your jersey number and just focus on being a team. Like, once you're in that top 20, you guys are a cohesive unit. Like, it doesn't... Because Sato has never been a team of individuals. They're always like a team. They come together as a team. They play as a cohesive unit. They are a well-oiled machine. It's what they do best. And Furuya is starting to get away from that mentality. And we get to know why by the time we get to episode 12, but Furuya sees that he has all this potential and that he could be this great... Again, Ochi, you've created a monster. Like, back in season 2, I'm like, Ochi, you created a monster telling him he could be the best pitcher in Japan. Like it's great that Furuya has ambition, and it's great that he sets his sight, but the whole thing with Kaoru, we're going to talk about that. That's where it's like, oh, no. Because I get Furuya wanting to be the best pitcher and be the ace. And yeah, that makes total sense. I won't dog Furuya for that at all. And he wants to be as good as Hongo. Like, he got that taste of nationals and it's affected him. And we'll talk about Ochi and Kataoka talk about how going to nationals affects you. It's like, and we'll get to that though. But the idea that they focus on as a team, like, just because you're the ace doesn't mean you're better than anyone. You have to be a team unit. And I think that's where Furuya is struggling with. And Miyuki's seeing the writing on the wall. He's like, something's up. I got to do damage control or this is going to get ugly and it's going to affect our team and the game. So I just think Furuya is thinking less and less of them as a team and more about himself and fixing himself and making himself better. And you could argue that Sawamura does that with the tape, but Sawamura's other actions make up for that. So we'll get to that too. But that line, forget the jersey number and focus as a team, I have a feeling that's going to have a big impact this season. And Sawamura saying that he wants to live up to the boss's expectations. And that's the thing too. That's a big difference between Sawamura and Furuya. Furuya wants to live up to his own expectations of how he sees himself and his own potential. He's a little bit selfish in that regard. But Sawamura wants to live up to the expectations of other people, of how others see him. He's like, the boss gave me this position, so I don't want to let him down. I don't want to let my team down. That's Sawamura's thing. He wants to focus. Sawamura is all about the team dynamic and them all working as a cohesive unit. Whereas Furuya seems to focus more on himself. And that's a big difference between them. But I love, whenever Miyuki and Sawamura get the gremlin looks, when they do like the sly smile, and they're like, you want to do the numbers? Let's do the numbers. Like, I love that. And we get a little bit more into the numbers in this episode, which is pretty cool. But we cut back to Sato in the stands, and Sato wishes that he had been there to stop Koshu. He's like, I wish I had been there to stop him. So Sato clearly knows that Koshu can fly off the handle or get angsty and emo without him being there. And so he's like, dang it, I shouldn't have left him. And so he's thinking about that. Masashi getting struck out with the hat sideways, like swinging like no tomorrow. Like, what? Whimsical indeed. Our whimsical Masashi. I kind of love Masashi. It's great. And this is the thing that gets me too, is that Asada watching Sawamura pitch and then watching him, Asada thinks that Sawamura is great. Asada thinks that Sawamura is such a good pitcher, and he was such in awe of Sawamura's pitching. And then later, when he sees him being so hypercritical of himself, I kept thinking Asada was going to be like, no, Sawamura, I really like your pitching. It's great. I look up to it. And it'd be like Asada is just like, why are you so hard on yourself? You're so good. So I said in the last couple episodes that I saw Asada being kind of like a Sawamura equivalent. I actually think Asada is more of a Nori equivalent, to be honest. I think Asada is kind of more like Nori, because Nori has had this whole struggle about not being good enough and not being as talented or being a prodigy, and he's had to work really hard to get where he's at, and it's showing good results. Like, Nori's had some great pitches, like Ono, and then been like, no, you're doing great. You're doing great, Nori. So I feel like maybe Asada won't become the next Sawamura, but I feel like Asada might become the next Nori, like a relief pitcher or somebody that could be like really good clutch in a moment. And that's what I want for Asada. I want for Asada to find his place and be good. I think Asada might be able to find like that one pitch that he can hone like Nori does, and that would be really, really cute. I'm all about it. But the Kagura pitcher, Takuya, he's interesting. Like I said, his design is very unique. But Kosei has returned. My Kosei dude. He's so odd, but I love him. But here's the thing. Kosei, back in season 2, Kosei was like fanboying over Raichi and wanting to like get all up on that. But I realized now what Kosei's deal is. Kosei is just like Raichi. Except Raichi wants to like collect pitchers. Raichi wants to battle the best pitchers in the world and bat against them and do his best. Kosei wants to pitch against the best batters in the world, and he wants a challenge. So Raichi wants a challenge with the best pitchers, and Kosei wants a challenge with the best batters. So when he saw Masashi bat to bat, he was like, oh, I've got to pitch to him. So basically what I'm saying is that when Ichidai faces off against Sato in the next couple of episodes or the next set or whatever, Kosei is going to be all about Masashi. He is going to be fanboying and totally crushing over Masashi, just like he was with Raichi. I'm going to call it now. I'm going to say that Kosei is going to freak out around Masashi and want to pitch to him, and it's going to be glorious. I'm like, give me this possible ship. I love it. But yeah, Kosei, I'm so excited. The fact that him and Raichi are similar in how they view batters and pitchers is really exciting. I'm all about it. So yeah, and that was episode 10. And then it only gets crazier from there. So episode 11, the finals and Sims are back-to-back. Joy. So there's not going to be any time to rest. It's going to be like back-to-back games. Because we've had like a good like several days in between all the games so far. But now it's like, no, first semifinals, next day finals. Everybody's going to be tired. It's going to be insane. But they win against Kasuga 0-1. All right. And so I love in this that we have this communication between Sawamura and Miyuki getting better and better. I love that Miyuki and Sawamura are like having this conversation, and they're just like joking around and being like their dynamic is getting more cordial and more congenial, and I like it. And I loved when Sawamura and Furuya were in the dugout during when everybody was batting, and they were singing the cheer song together. Like I want that, but Furuya, honey, Furuya is getting selfish. He's getting greedy. Right? He's getting greedy, and we're going to talk about that. But I love when they were singing together in the dugout. That was so sweet. So, this thing with Kosei, too. So, the pitcher-catcher in Kasuga, like, the moment that Kosei walked away, he's like, this game it's not even worth watching. Like, I know Sato's going to win. And they're like, what? And that's when the pitcher and catcher, the battery, they walked Miyuki. They didn't even challenge him. They like, that one pitch, the guy like held his mitt out, like, way out here. Like, there was no way that was not going to be, like, how did Miyuki not see that mitt being way out there and not realize, man, they're going to throw it way out there? How did he not see that? And Kosei is like, I have no interest in a battery that chickens out. He's like, you guys just wussed out of this. I have no interest because you're not going to be a threat. If you can't take on their batters face to face, then you're going to lose. It's like, and they do. And they do. So I felt bad that Sawamura hit that pitcher with the experimental pitch. I'm glad it was an experimental pitch, and Miyuki's like, we tried it too soon. But I am sad that Sawamura, anytime there's a hit by pitch, I'm just like, Sawamura, don't get all emo again, no. And he doesn't. He's just like, damn it. He's like, I tried it and it didn't work. I'm glad that he's in much better spirits, despite all of that. Now, God, if Furuya ever hit by pitch somebody, like, that could break a bone. Like, thank God Furuya has not had I don't think Furuya has ever had a hit by pitch, because if he did, that would be deadly. Like, if he's pitching 150 kilometers per hour, that could hurt somebody a lot. So I'm glad that's not happened yet. I'm like, ugh. But Sawamura, bless his heart, and Miyuki saying that Sato has a lot of growing to do. Like, we've grown so much over the second season. But Miyuki's like, we still got a lot of work to do. Like, Sawamura's not perfect, and Furuya's not. They're nowhere near Mei's level. So they're like, if we face Inshiro in the finals, we gotta get to the finals first. We gotta beat Ichidai, and Kosei's like, Kosei's good. Kosei reminds me a lot of Furuya, where Kosei can have like an off start to a game, but then once he gets fired up, it's really hard to stop him. It's kind of the same deal. But the top of the sixth, Furuya comes in. I just love that the coach for Kagura, the coach goes, like, I loved that. I love the coach when Furuya came on and was like, oh God. And I'll be honest, I got a little bit mad because Sawamura pitched 5 innings. He didn't let any runs happen. Yeah, he got that hit by pitch during the 5th inning, but he had a really good inning, and everybody was just kind of like, okay, Sawamura, let's wait till get Furuya. And then the moment Furuya comes on, everybody's like, there's a cheer squad. Everybody's like, oh my God, and freaking out. I kind of felt bad for Sawamura because I'm like, our Sunshine Boy, what do y'all expect? Like, he's done a really good job, you jerks. And then even when Furuya, here's the thing, Furuya had a bad last game, and he's not doing what Miyuki wants him to do in this game against Kagura, but everybody's still cheering him on. It's just feeding that ego, and just feeding it, and Miyuki's like, you're not doing what I want you to do. And Sawamura's like, that jerk, he's like, I had such a good game, and then you come on and just outshine me instantly, like, that's not fair. And I like that Sawamura's in good spirits about it, like, he kind of smiles, and like, what a jerk. Like, I like that he's in good spirits about it, but it's still so frustrating. I'm like, oh man, it's just really sad. And then, Furuya, I can do more. And I get that. I get where Furuya is coming from. He's seen that, he's like, I have potential. I can be better. But he's so focused on himself. He's got tunnel vision, and he's not seeing the team. He's just seeing what he can do, and he's just using people to make himself better. Like him just wanting Miyuki to catch for him. He's like, I just need to be where I can do the most. And these other catchers can't do for me like what Miyuki can. And Miyuki's like, And here's the problem. The problem with it all is that Miyuki's only going to be here 1 more year. And then his 3rd year, what's Furuya going to do? Is he just going to implode without Miyuki there? Like, Sawamura is making efforts to catch with other people, even if it's just playing catch with Asada. This whole thing with Koshu, Sawamura is gaining a camaraderie with these other catchers who he will eventually have to work with when Miyuki is gone. And what is Furuya going to do? If he doesn't form a good battery with Kaoru, then what happens with that, right? Yeah, it's just But so Furuya and I loved the scene that really got me thinking, basically was embodying how I felt about Furuya, is when Miyuki went back to that moment where Furuya was sitting at the table right before Nationals talking to the team, and there was that sense of team camaraderie. Miyuki's like, you were embodying the spirit of the ace then. That's what you were supposed to do. I was so proud of you. But now you're just back to the old you that's just pitching for yourself. You're not pitching for the team. And it's like, good. He's like regressing. It's, I don't know how to feel about it, right? But we don't have time for that because Masashi hits a home run. And they end up winning 8-0. Like, episode 11 starts with them winning 0-1. And then by the end of the game, Masashi hits the final home run and they win 8-0. And I like that Ichidai's coach is like, their team is looking dangerous. They're starting to look like a team that could win nationals. It's like, yep. And so it's going to be Ichidai versus Otsuki. And they end up winning. I like in the stands, I like the dynamic between Nabe and Miyuki, them communicating to each other. I like that Miyuki is like going to Nabe for information because Nabe is the sniper of all info. And then Kosei being distracted, and then he kind of like ends up catching up and being fine. But at the beginning of the game, he seems distracted. And so I really liked how Miyuki talked to both Sawamura and Furuya. He's like, okay, I want you two to watch. See what the pitcher does that messes up. See what they do wrong. And see what the other pitcher does right and how that can influence a game. To see what decides the game, right? And so I feel like what he told Sawamura in that moment about watching the pitcher and seeing what was done wrong and trying to fix it, I think that's why Sawamura goes back to the videotape later to watch himself and be like, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I fix that? And so he's taking Miyuki's words to heart. And Furuya does not do that. So yeah. And then Miyuki admits that he admires Kosei. He's like, man, that slider. He's like, I don't want to catch that. And there's like this little moment of like jealousy between Furuya and Sawamura. They're like, we have to face them tomorrow. Don't talk about the enemy. Don't say you want to catch the enemy's balls. And he's like, Miyuki's like, I like a challenge. What can I say? I'm like, Miyuki, you slut. No, oh, I love it. I love it so much. But here we got that end of the thing where Kaoru wanted to catch for Furuya. And Ono had his headphones on so he couldn't hear the conversation. Because I think if Ono had heard the conversation, he would have shut that shit down real quick. I think if Ono had heard what Furuya said, and Kaoru is a first year, he doesn't want to stir things, he's trying to be nice. I'm like, if Kaoru went to Miyuki saying what he did, Miyuki would have shut that shit down too. I'd have been like, oh. So we have this thing talked about in these last 2 episodes, starting with the ending of episode 11 into episode 12, about the role that the catcher plays. That the catcher on the team has a big role. And Chris Senpai kind of hints about it too, way back in season 1. It's to keep the pitchers' egos in check. It's to keep the pitchers happy, to where they can do the best they can. That kind of ties back to episode 9 and episode 7, where Itsuki was talking to Mei. Itsuki's like, I know my role. My role is to keep Mei calm and cool and collected so he can pitch the best that he can. Itsuki knows what Miyuki is trying to tell Koshu later on in episode 12. Itsuki's got it. He's figured it out. Itsuki's like, my job is to keep the pitcher's ego in check and make sure they can pitch to the best of their ability. And Miyuki's like, that's the job of a catcher. We got to do damage control with these divas and make sure that they pitch the best that they can to help the team. And Kaoru wants to like help Furuya out. And so we see him asking to pitch for Furuya. And then I love that we get the shot of Nori running by himself. Like Nori is still training. Like we can't forget about Nori, because Nori's probably thinking like, I'm going to be ready to step in whenever. I love that. And I feel so sad for Nori. Because Nori, he's like, I just need to keep training and getting better. But Nori doesn't have that battery, right? That like Sawamura and Furuya have. So I kind of feel bad for Nori. That him just running by himself, it really got to me. I was like, ugh, man. And Sawamura takes Asada with him to watch the tape. And then, of course, he runs into Koshu, and they have like a little altercation. And he's just like, are you so angsty, wolf brat, wolf boy? It's like, oh, yeah. And then we get the new kid. We still don't know his name yet. I'm assuming we're going to find out. Okay. It's going to be really funny if it's connected to like a player that we know. And we'll be like, what? You're his brother? But we get this new kid, and he broke his leg playing soccer, of all things. Okay. But it's healing. It's just put him behind. And he's rooming with Toji. Well, he's not rooming with Kanemaru. Kanemaru's rooming with Sato. So I guess he's rooming with Toji, maybe. But he seems really nice. He seems like a little soft-spoken, like a big butterball. I kind of like this new kid. He seems like a Toji-like character. I like him. But, and then Asada realizing how critical Sawamura is of himself. The Sawamura is very self-critical. And he overthinks things a lot. And it's like, yeah, Sawamura's biggest weakness is that he overthinks so much, which is funny because usually your sunshine characters don't think a lot, and Sawamura overthinks everything. He gets way too self-critical. So I'm hoping at some point that this ties back to a future moment where Asada's like, quit being so self-critical. Just, you're good. Focus on that. Like, I want Asada to have a conversation with Sawamura about this, but we're not there yet. Asada is not confident enough to tell Sawamura face-to-face of how good he is, and I'm waiting for that moment. But the fact that Sawamura is like talking to Asada about the baseball numbers, and he's like, I've gotten up to number 5. I've got gear 5. I can do my 5 numbers here. He's like, but number 6 and number 7 are hard, and they're the ones I haven't perfected yet. And Asada's just like in awe of him. And what I love about Sawamura in these episodes is that he's kind to his underclassmen, and he incorporates them into the team, even if they're not on the roster. Like Asada, it would be so easy for an upperclassman to ignore Asada because he's at the bottom of the ladder. But Sawamura wants to lift him up. He wants to involve him and get him with the team. And that, to me, is like the spirit of the ace. Like, yeah, you got to have talent. You got to have the talent to back it up. But like that effort, that teamwork, like getting the team together, that is like the spirit of the ace to me. I value that myself. If I was coaching, I'd value that more than the one player that's amazing. Because, yeah, I've been on, like, I did speech competitively, and for that, yeah, you see teams where they have the one person that's amazing. They don't usually win tournaments. Their person wins the team. They may win sweepstakes. They may do really good. They may get like second or third as a team, but a team with just one great person is not enough. Like, you have to have a well-oiled, cohesive team that get along and support each other. And that's what I love about what Sawamura is doing. He's supporting his underclassmen and lifting them up. And that's what you should do as an upperclassman. You should help them feel better and feel like they're involved. And Furuya is not doing that. No. We'll talk about that. And so then Asada wants to catch for Sawamura. He's like, I just want to catch and see you pitch. I think that'll help. And it's like, aw. And then Sato's like, I'm going to help Koshu chill. We're going to do damage control. Be like, Koshu, calm down. Calm down. He like growls at Sawamura at one point. I was like, Koshu, why are you growling at him? Oh my God. I never thought I'd hear Tsukishima's voice actor say that. But yeah, Sato helps him chill. And then we cut to episode 12. I'm in shock. Because Furuya, selfish. So selfish. He left Kaoru saying he only wants to pitch to Miyuki, who can bring out his potential. And that may be true, but I'm sorry, I've been on teams, and you don't say that to an underclassman, especially a first year who asks for you to help. Like the fact that Kaoru went out of his way to ask you to practice with him, and Furuya just shut him down. And I'm like, how that would feel to a first year, just getting like just such a cold shoulder. Him being like, oh, maybe late. Not even maybe later. Not even when he first said, I'll pass. I was like, okay, Furuya's just not feeling it. He's going to go take a walk by himself. He's not feeling it. If he just said, I'll pass, it's like, okay, yeah, you turned down your Kohei, but there's still the offer's not completely rejected. No, he flat out rejected Kaoru. He was like, no. It's like, you're not good enough for me to pitch to. It's like, I could never imagine Sawamura doing that, ever. And he doesn't in this episode, and that's the big difference. Because that just crushed Kaoru's spirits. And it made, now granted, it did make Kaoru in the batting cage be like, because we find out Kaoru has like an inferiority complex about his shortness, right? He's like, oh God, he's like Hoshiyumi. He's like, Yui is like Hoshiyumi from Haikyuu. He has a thing about his height, and Yui's like, I'm more than just my height, damn it. I'm talented. And he's a prodigy. And that was so sad that high school turned him down because of his height. And he's like, damn it, I'm going to be better than that. And so, yeah, it spurned Kaoru on, but then it made him really awkward when he was like, oh, I'll come watch Furuya. And Furuya to say, yeah, just to watch. And Miyuki's like, wait a minute. I was like, oh no. Oh no. Like, uh-oh. Yikes. Because that's cruel. Like, and I'm sure if Ono had heard that, he'd been like, stop. No. Miyuki may, because here's the thing, Miyuki is the captain. So Miyuki is in a very rough position. He is the captain. He has to do damage control for the entire team, and Miyuki has to keep the team in check. And so I do get where Miyuki is coming from. We'll talk about that whole thing about the ace. I get where Miyuki is coming from. He's got his own agenda, and he's trying to figure stuff out. What I want to happen is Miyuki is the captain, and he has to have authority, but I want somebody else, like Ono or Kuromochi or somebody, to shut that shit down. Like, I want Ono to be like, oh, no. Because Ono's the roommate, right? I want Ono as the roommate to be like, no, Furuya, you're not going to talk to our Kohei like that. Like, no. And I think Ono would have the right to do that. And then if Furuya got selfish, then they could take it to Miyuki and be like, listen to this shit. But I felt really bad for Kaoru in this. I was like, that kid just wants somebody to catch with him. And you flat out turned him down. And so then it's such a parallel, such a contrast, because you have poor Kaoru being like, getting rejected, and Kaoru is like one of the starters. Like, he's the one that's worked his way up. And for him to work his way up to the number 20 spot and get turned down by Furuya, then you contrast that with Sawamura, who's working with Asada, who's at the bottom of the bench. And it's like such a contrast. It's such a contrast to like build him up, right? And inspire him. And then I love that Miyuki just, whenever Koshu comes in the room, Miyuki's like, oh, hey, Rumi, like, let's talk. Let's have a heart-to-heart. And Koshu's just like, oh, God. So, Furuya is, Ochiai created a monster whether Ochi will ever admit it or not, or realize it, he created a monster by stoking his ego back in season 2 and telling Furuya, like, you could be the best pitcher in Japan. And I think that Furuya could. He's got all this potential. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And I love that imagery. As Ochi and Kateoka are talking, there's the imagery of all the players playing with themselves, and there's Furuya alone on the hill. Furuya alone at the top of the hill. And it's like, you can't play baseball alone. It's like, God, that imagery, though. And then we cut to the next day, and Asada, who's been getting up early and trying to beat everyone out so that he gets done before everybody else and isn't in their way. We cut to Asada, and he sleeps in, and he said it's the best sleep he ever had. Because he was just playing catch with Sawamura. And it's like, I wanted to cry because I was so inspired. I was like, oh, Sawamura, honey, you're doing what you're supposed to do as a senpai. And now you just need to do that with Koshu. We'll get to that. God, we'll get to that. But yeah, but Koshu, I love that he's like, Koshu's like a thorn to Sawamura. Sawamura's like, why can't you be nice? And it's like, Sawamura's like, I can't read you, Koshu, wolf boy. It's like, aw. But then, yeah, Yui has the thing about his height, and he wants to prove Furuya wrong. And I admire Kaoru for overcoming that feeling of worthlessness to be like, no, I'll prove Furuya wrong. I'll prove I'm a damn good catcher and a good batter. It's like, oh, but I just feel bad for him. I also like that Koshu has this white fire around him. Furuya has the blue fire, but Koshu has this white fire. It's like intense. And so we have this conversation between him and Miyuki. And Miyuki's like, you're always a catcher. Even when you're off the field, you are always a catcher. Like, you have this role as a catcher on the team that your words and actions affect the pitchers. And it's our job to make sure the pitchers do the best that they can. So we've set up since season 1 that Miyuki knows how to play pitchers. He's done this since season 1. This is nothing new. No, this is nothing new for Miyuki. He played Tamba, he's played Nori, he's played Sawamura and Furuya. Like, Miyuki knows how to tune the fiddle. I would argue that maybe Miyuki is the most genuine around Sawamura and the most himself around Sawamura. He feels the most comfortable around him because he put up a front for Tamba, most definitely, because he didn't like Tamba. Miyuki didn't like Tamba, but he's like, I gotta do what I can to make him pitch the best. So, okay, but their personalities clashed. And with Nori, Miyuki is just kind of like, you could tell Miyuki is acting around Nori. He's putting up a facade, and Nori's aware of it, but they're both kind of mutually like, okay, we'll do what we gotta do. And with Sawamura and Furuya, Miyuki's like, he struggles a little bit more with the two of them because he's like, you two are my wild cards. You two boys are hard to mess with. Because Sawamura can be delicate at times. And I feel like Miyuki's the most genuine around Sawamura, but he can be delicate. And so Miyuki's like trying to read him. And then with Furuya, Miyuki's like, you're hard. But Miyuki loves a challenge, so he accepts it, right? And he gets excited by how much potential Furuya has, even scared by it. But he's just like, you need to do what I want. You need to do what I say. I get like there's a little bit of Mei vibes sinking in with Furuya. But whereas Mei has the cocky personality to kind of pull it off, Furuya does not have the personality to pull off Mei's mindset. And I said in the last set of reactions that I don't feel like Mei and Miyuki would be a good battery because there'd be too much tension there. And in that bullpen, in that practice pen, there is tension. And I'm like, ooh. But Miyuki's like, what if what you said threw Sawamura off? And you know when Miyuki says this, he knows that Sawamura is gonna be fine. He's just having a Sawamura sunshine freak out, but he's gonna be fine. But he's like, what if what you said affected him negatively and altered the team and hurt the team dynamic? What then? And as soon as he said that, all I could think of is what Furuya did to Kaoru. And I'm like, well, that's probably gonna affect the team and Kaoru's whole mindset. So yeah, your actions have consequences. And Miyuki's like, you need to think about that because you're probably gonna be catching for Sawamura or Furuya at some point. And you need to work with Sawamura. I love these, like, Miyuki's like, you just need to go catch for Sawamura. It's kind of like Free. I'm sorry, but it is like Free, Iwatobi Swim Club, where everybody Sawamura, I never made this connection, but Sawamura is like Haru in Free, where everybody's like, once you swim with Haru, you'll understand. And in this, they're like, once you catch for Sawamura, you'll understand. So it's that same thing. Miyuki is like Makoto in this. I remember Makoto telling, Hiyori in Free, Makoto's like, once you swim with Haru, you'll understand what it's all about. And here Miyuki's just like Makoto, where he's like, once you catch for Sawamura, you'll get it. You'll see it. I like that he says once you catch for Sawamura, because I feel like Miyuki is setting up, he's like, Koshu, you would be a good match with Sawamura. You guys would be a good battery together. Let's set that up. Miyuki's kind of like playing matchmaker here with catchers and pitchers. But Miyuki is noticing that Furuya is regressing. He's going back to the old Furuya. He's regressing. He still has a strong will. He's not weak, but he's not doing the focus like he was before. Whereas it says that Nori's looking good, and Sawamura gets so frustrated because Sawamura's like, I want Miyuki to catch for me too, right? But the difference is Sawamura's like, I want Miyuki to catch for me, but I'm happy with Ono and the others. Like, I'll be fine, but I want Miyuki to catch for me because he likes that battery. And Furuya likes Miyuki to catch for him a lot. But he's not settling for any other option. That's the problem. And I feel like both Sawamura and Furuya, they're getting so used to Miyuki that I feel like Miyuki is going to want to start setting them up. Because I think Miyuki knows the writing on the wall. He's like, I'm going to leave in a year. These two diva pitchers, they need to get used to two other catchers and be fine with them. So I'm going to be wondering in the next several episodes if Miyuki is going to try to set Furuya up catching with the other players. And if Furuya says no, what is that going to do? So that's what I'm curious about. If Miyuki's like, hey, you need to catch for Kaoru, or pitch to Kaoru, or pitch to Ono, and Furuya's like, no. And then Miyuki will be like, hold the phone. So that's going to be what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting for the shit to hit the fan. The shit's going to hit the fan. As soon as he told Kaoru no and gave him that rejection, I'm like, oh, this is going to come back to bite. I don't know if it will or not. This series gives Furuya a pass a lot of the times, but I'm like, I want it to come back and bite Furuya, especially after all this talk about being on a team. I'm like, Furuya, honey, you got to know your place. And we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, so this whole thing about Miyuki going with Furuya and the whole thing with Yuya, here's the thing. I can see why somebody would instantly be mad with Miyuki, because Miyuki told Sawamura that he'd catch for him after the game, and Furuya comes up to him and says, I want you to catch for me. And Sawamura's like, but I was already told that Miyuki would play catch with me. And then Miyuki's like, I'm going to go be with Furuya first, and then I'll catch for you. Miyuki has two goals in this. One, he wants to figure out what's Furuya's deal. He's like, Furuya's off. I want to catch for him. And that's what he sets up that whole thing about asking, like, what did you get? What do you want after nationals? So Miyuki's like, okay, I'll go catch for you, Furuya, and figure out what your deal is. So that's one of Miyuki's things. But two, it does kind of tie back to Miyuki's trying to keep the ace happy because he's going to have to pitch tomorrow. He doesn't want to throw him off. So he's catering a little bit to Furuya. A little bit. He's catering to him. And third, I think he knows Sawamura can handle it. Sawamura can handle the rejection. It just sucks for Sawamura because Sawamura's like, So I think Miyuki gives Sawamura a lot of credit that he can handle the rejection, and he wants to find out what Furuya's deal is, and he wants to keep Furuya happy to pitch in the game tomorrow well. So Miyuki's trying to play like 3D chess over here with these players. But the thing of it is Sawamura is just like, I hate this mentality that the ace comes first, because that's basically what that move was. And we just had that big spiel in episode 10 about Kateoka saying that the number doesn't matter as long as we're a team. So again, I think that's going to come up because the scene we get right after it, we'll talk about it. But then we have Yui. Now I think Miyuki's also catching on to Furuya's attitude, because Yui's like, well, can I? Yui doesn't want to tattle on Furuya. Kaoru does not want to tattle on Furuya. But he wants to, like, call him out, right? He wants to call him out and be like, are you going to reject me in front of your captain? So he's like, I want to come and watch too and see if I can help. And that line that Furuya's like, just to watch. You can just come to watch. And Miyuki's like, hey, don't be like that. And I'm sure Miyuki's like, why are you being like that? So, I'm seeing something started here, right? And so I wish that when Sawamura was being, and it ends up coming back, because at the moment when Sawamura was like, I hate that because he's the ace, he could just take Miyuki from me whenever he wants to. And I kept wanting one of the first years to like offer to practice with Sawamura instead. And we get that just at the end of the episode. And so we cut to this whole thing about the baseball goals journal with Kateoka. And Kateoka being a language arts teacher, I love it. I love that he's so fascinated by their words and what they said. I had a very like English nerd moment. And Ochiai's like, you're such a teacher, like such a language arts teacher. And I'm like, yes, that's why I love Kateoka, because he is a language arts teacher, and him focusing like on their words and how they've changed and developed over time. I'm like, the journal writing exercise, I love it. I was like, Kateoka, I am here with you. # teacher life. I get it. I absolutely get it. And then he says that Ochiai brings it up, which funny, Ochiai, you've created this monster, and so now you bring it up. He's like, what do we do about the way that Furuya is acting? So everybody's noticing it. Mm-hmm. And Kateoka says, nationals changes people for good, sometimes bad. The question is if the change benefits the team. And that's where I think we're going to run into trouble the next several episodes, is Furuya's change benefiting the team? Is him wanting to get better as a pitcher to be the number one pitcher in Japan? Is it benefiting the team or just himself? I don't know. I think it's just his team, but it's just himself, not the team, but we'll see. So then, we cut back to the whole thing in the bullpen, and Furuya just not doing what Miyuki wants him to. Like, he has these really strong, amazing pitches, but he's not listening, right? And then Koshu coming up and saying that he'll help Sawamura warm up, taking that step. And I imagine what I think happened is that Koshu saw Sawamura get rejected in that moment by Miyuki and them and was like, damn it, I guess I'll step up. I think Koshu took Miyuki's words to heart and was like, okay, I will step up and try to pitch with Sawamura and catch for him and see what all the hubbub's about. And see what all the hubbub is about, right? And then oh my God, Sawamura, why is this show wanting me to suddenly ship Sawamura and Koshu? Why is this show wanting me to do that? Because I'm going to make it. I know what the thumbnail is now, even though there's a lot of focus on Furuya in this. I want the one thumbnail from 7 to 9 to be Koshu looking down on Sawamura, and then we flip it, and this thumbnail to be Sawamura looking down on Koshu and being like, a pitcher-catcher battery is a work of art! And him being like a work of art. Like, that moment was amazing. Amazing. I'm going to go back and rewatch it as soon as I'm done with this recording. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I love that Koshu immediately knew that it was Miyuki's words. He's like, that sounds like something Miyuki would say. Did he tell you that? And Sawamura's like, quit stealing. And it's like, yes. But I love that Miyuki told those words to Sawamura, and I love that Sawamura is passing those words on to Koshu. And it's just like, it's like from one generation to the next. And where Miyuki inspired Sawamura as a pitcher, now Sawamura gets to inspire Koshu as a catcher. And I'm like, And so, yep. Mm-hmm. I love that. I can't tell you all how excited I am to see these next several episodes. If I had time tonight, I'd watch them, but I don't. It's like almost 10 o'clock at night already, so no. But yeah, just that battery that I can see, I want to see the next episode and see Koshu catch for Sawamura. I want him to see what it's like. I do. But we have that beautiful relationship developing, and then we cut to the tension between Miyuki and Furuya being so thick. And Furuya being asked, Miyuki saying, what did you see at Nationals? Why are you acting this way? And I love that Furuya's like, I lost those runs. We lost the game because of me. And I know I can do better. And Miyuki's like, that was the best game you've ever pitched. And Furuya's like, I can do better. And Miyuki's like, you're aiming really high. He says, you're going to push yourself to walk a thorny path. And it may work out. It may be if you can get past the thorny path and make it work, then I'm like, yeah, you could be the best pitcher in Japan. But Miyuki's like, you have so much potential that it's scary, but don't be Icarus. Don't fly too close to the sun or your wings are going to melt and you're going to fall into the ocean. I think in that moment Miyuki's like inspired. He's like, yeah, I love a challenge and this is awesome. Like he's like, all right, I can deal with this. But at the same time, Miyuki's also like, don't burn yourself out. You know, like it's sort of, there's a delicate balance there. And I don't know if Furuya can handle it. I guess we'll find out. And that line at the end where, and Miyuki kind of throws it back in his face. He's like, Miyuki, I'm like, dude, he's like, you know, if you don't get your act together and start thinking of things as a team and figure things out, then somebody else might come and take that ace number off your back. And he like motions to Sawamura. And I'm kind of like, Miyuki, that's a cheap move. I'm like, Miyuki, that's a cheap move because I get what Miyuki's trying to do. He's trying to fire Furuya up and get that Furuya-Sawamura rivalry that happened towards the end of season 2 back because it was really good. And I see what he's trying to do, but I'm like, Miyuki, that's a cheap move. You ditched Sawamura on purpose to figure out what was going on with Furuya, and now you're going to drag Sawamura back into this to kind of inspire Furuya and motivate him. I'm like, that's kind of a dirty move, Miyuki. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And then I'm glad that Sawamura stuck up with Koshu, because Koshu came up and offered, and Sawamura was like, okay, I'll let you help warm up. And then Miyuki was like, all right, well, I'm done with Furuya, Sawamura. I'm ready to warm up with you. And Sawamura was like, I'm going to be your sloppy seconds. He's like, I promised Koshu that I'd warm up with him, so I'm going to do that first. I'm so proud of Sawamura. He was like, no, I'm going to warm up with Koshu and show him the power of Nakama. And I'm like, good for you, Sawamura. Good for you not taking any of that slack. And then there's this line where Furuya kind of tries to shove it back in Miyuki's face. He's like, well, I'm not letting Sawamura take me off the mound. And Miyuki's like, that's not your decision. That's the coach's decision. Like, trying to be like, calm down, buddy. And I'm like, y'all, it goes back to that game where Furuya was like, well, I'm going to pitch because I'm the ace. And I was like, ooh, I didn't like Furuya in that episode because I was like, honey, you don't talk like that to your coach. That's just not how that works. And so with this line at the end, I'm like, Furuya, honey, I'm wondering if he tries to talk back to Kataoka a second time, if Kataoka's going to shut him down and be like, no, I let you play with this injury because it was okay at the time for reasons, but if you try to shut me down on this, I'm going to be very curious to see what's going to happen. Furuya makes me nervous because I'm like, you're not acting like a teammate, you're just acting like a one-man show. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. And then Miyuki telling Koshu, he's like, pitchers are trouble. That's their trouble, and that's the challenge and what's fun about it. So I'm like, Miyuki may be having the time of his life dealing with his challenging Furuya as a pitcher, but I'm like, it's so stressful. What makes Furuya stresses me in this episode, because I'm like, you're flying real on a dangerous line there. And I want Furuya to do good, but I don't want the attitude with it. And Furuya with the attitude, especially towards Kaoru, I'm like, I'm not about that life. Whereas our Sunshine Boy is being like Mother Teresa to everybody. I'm like, keep it up, Sawamura. I was like, I want to have like the phone, and I'm like, you know, you're doing great, sweetie. Like, you know, I want to have the phone being like, you're doing great, sweetie. Just keep it up. But, oh my gosh. Holy cow. So yeah, these episodes, I cannot tell you how frustrated I am that it stopped before we got to see Koshu and Sawamura play together. I'm so excited for episode 13. I'm so excited. And next time, I'm watching 4 episodes, so it's like, yes, please. Whew. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I don't think I'll be able to wait a week. I'm supposed to leave. I'm recording this on a Tuesday, and I'm supposed to leave Sunday. I may have to record this before I go. I've got other shows that I'm recording, and I usually record Ace of the Diamond once a week, but I may have to record this early before I leave because I want to see those episodes. And then take my week off. So, all right, we'll see. We'll see. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Holy cow, these episodes. What is this season? What is this series? So I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. In the meantime, have a wonderful week. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with Ace of the Diamond Act